Welcome to everyone and to our guest. I'm sure Dean will join us soon. The first item is item number 2 is the disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Anyone have any conflict to declare? I'm assuming no, so we'll carry on. You have the agenda in front of you. Any issues with that? We able to go with that? So by consensus, we can move forward. The last item of that kind of consensual business is the confirmation of the minutes from the last meeting. Any errors or omissions that people would like to point to? Okay. Well, with that in mind, then we turn to action items, and 5.1 we have a guest, David Cross, and how will we proceed? Dorothy, are you going to begin this, or will we start with David?
No, we're going to begin with David. David Cross is the chair of the Elora Sculpture Project Committee, and we've invited him here tonight to talk about where we are with that project. So, floor is yours, David.
Okay, thanks, Dorothy. Hello, everyone. I'll be fairly brief. I do have some prepared comments I would like to make, and then we can have further discussion as needed. Thank you for having me as a delegation representing the Elora Sculpture Project Committee. As Dorothy mentioned, I am currently serving as the chair. I was also the chair of the committee from 2013 until 2019, when I stepped back to be treasurer, but the gentleman who replaced me as chair had to retire due to some health reasons, so I'm back in that role. I have no new proposals or ideas to present to this meeting, but I would like to address some key issues, and I think this is appropriate before moving on to select a path forward. I guess I'll start by saying we were very dismayed by the proceedings of your meeting on May 5th, and I know that many of these facts have since been clarified, but I would like to reiterate that I've been the main point of contact between the township and our committee regarding the McDonald Trust Fund project from the outset, and this hasn't changed. We did not ask Beverly Cairns, nor have we asked any other individuals to speak on our behalf. We are a committee of volunteers, and for 11 years now, we have staged an annual outdoor exhibition which bears our name, the Elora Sculpture Project. It has become an important feature on our cultural landscape, supported financially by many local businesses and citizens. And we've enjoyed a supportive and working relationship with township staff over this time. Because the installations are on township property, people working, I guess, probably within Matt's department and so on, are always helpful in site maintenance and preparation and so on. In 2017, the township approached our committee to solicit artist proposals and select 2 sculptures to be funded by a federal grant to celebrate Canada 150. This was a very positive and successful undertaking, and when proposals were being sought for use of the McDonald Trust Fund, we considered this a template that we could build on. However, it turns out that we were rather mistaken, and this has been a very frustrating exercise that has led to a lot of discouragement. I'll paraphrase here, but at a previous meeting, a member of your committee, CSAC, suggested that my committee was about to pull the plug on this project. And I want to assure you that we have done our best to move this project forward within the spirit of the agreement that we signed for the purpose of this project. And we're not pulling the plug. If you want to put it that way, that was done quite some time ago, and the project has been stalled for a significant period of time. The report that we submitted in March of this year, I think, lays out our concerns fairly clearly, and I'm not going to go over that point by point. I would like to emphasize, though, that the site selection was to be determined jointly. But one party to the agreement has only offered one option, and that is to place the sculpture at the walking bridge. The agreement states that it is our right to reject this location, which we did, and we initially offered two options to be considered. More options could have been brought forward if needed. We certainly had others on the list that were discussed at our meetings, but we put forward the two that we thought were the best two at the time, which would have been the Victoria Park location and the McDonald Square location. And what we really wanted to do was we wanted to pick a site and then have the artist conceive a work that would fit a specific site. And we wanted this to be something very significant, very prominent in the community, in the village of Elora. And if you think of the sort of the presentation of the sculpture that's commonly known as the Tall Man in the green space, that's not its proper title. But you think of the way that it's very significant in the way it's not placed on top of some other architectural element. It's kind of standing on its own. And I'm not suggesting we would, be commissioning another sculpture that in any way resembled the Tall Man, but in terms of the presentation, that was sort of what we envisioned. Something significant with space around it so it could be properly observed and so on. So in 2019, we did come up with these two alternate ideas. And I have to admit, I was quite surprised at that time to learn that those proposals were then going to be brought to CSAC. There's nothing in our agreement that suggested that CSAC should be reviewing these proposals. And if staff, wants to take the input of CSAC, I understand that's certainly something that can be done. But it was very surprising. And we were not invited to participate in any presentation to CSAC at the time. And one recommendation, only one recommendation was put forward. I guess the other one was kiboshed by staff. And what came to CSAC was a choice between Victoria Park location and the walking bridge. Now, the walking bridge at that point in time should never have been an option for CSAC to consider. It was already rejected multiple times for good reasons, as presented in our report. And so I think this was a flawed process. We can only speculate, but it now seems that sometime early in the process, and I'm not sure if it's from the very genesis when this was approved at CSAC or somewhere further along the line with staff or with some other parties, but it seems there were opinions developed about where this sculpture should be located, and perhaps even opinions about what the nature of the sculpture should be. So despite having negotiated and signed an agreement with the township that specified we were to participate in the decision-making process, we were in actuality not treated as equal participants. And at this point, our suggestion is that CSAC can take a decision to move forward in whatever manner they think best, and that part of that moving forward process should be the termination of the existing agreement with our committee. And that's basically the statement I would like to make, but I'm quite willing to entertain any questions, comments.
Okay, thanks, David. So if I may just elaborate, in your previous submission, you said due to lengthy delays, we cannot complete the project. So what you're saying is that you would undertake, or you would wish that we terminate the agreement, and as it is now?
Yes. So the previous report indicated two things. One, I believe we stated our frustration with the process and how we don't believe it unfolded the way we expected it to. And secondly, because of the passage of time, we now have a much reduced committee in terms of manpower. So basically those two factors together, even if CSAC told me tonight, oh yes, we've decided you can put the sculpture up in Victoria Park at the place you liked, we're not in a position to make that happen. So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I'm moving my screen around here. I don't see any hands.
Okay.
Grace, did you want to say
Nothing else
something?
for me?
I guess you answered my question there, because I think to explain part of this committee, like the very first time we met, we were asked to reflect upon the location, and we were a brand new committee. I just like to speak for myself. I don't know that I truly understood how things worked. If we had heard from you about your feelings about the location, we might have felt differently. We didn't feel that we were kiboshing anything. We heard about this location proposal, and we thought maybe the bridge would be better, but certainly going back in time, just speaking for myself, I would certainly want to have heard from you and to consider very strongly the feelings of the artists involved of where the sculpture should be. I think we should take you very seriously, because you have a lot of experience with placing sculptures and knowing what might be appropriate. So personally, I may have been, I don't know, I would probably look at it all differently right now. And I'm sorry to hear that you would withdraw your involvement with this, even if the location were an issue. Are you absolutely 100% sure that you would want to take away your involvement if the location weren't an issue?
Well, subsequent to the submission of our report in March, I did have brief communication with your chair, Brian. And I said, if there was some alternate methodology put forward to have this move forward more smoothly than it had in the past 3 years, that we would be willing to listen. But there's been no other suggestion other than, well, there's been no other suggestion on how it should work. So I appreciate your comments about how perhaps if it was presented differently, some different actions could have been taken. At that time, that was back in 2019, and we, as I say, we're surprised that it came to CSAC, but we had, I guess my understanding was you would be presented with 2 proposals that we'd laid out and consider those proposals, the merits of each of those proposals, and not have them compared to a previously rejected site. So as I say, we had other alternates. If you'd come back and said, look, David, neither of those are any good. Do you have a third option? Then the answer would have been yes. But I guess to answer your last question, no, location is no longer the crux of the problem. The crux of the problem is a breakdown in the communication, the way this has unfolded, and no enthusiasm on behalf of the remaining committee members that I represent to move forward with this.
Okay, because I think the whole, just to follow up, certainly in previous discussions, just in this committee, there's nothing more than we would like than to see a sculpture honoring McDonald in whatever way. We would love it to proceed if there's any way that, if we have any say in it, and I think we all want it big time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess as you say, the terms of the agreement were that the sculpture was to honor the legacy of Jack R. McDonald, and we accepted that condition. And I believe that's part of our concern moving forward, is if we can't agree on a site, for heaven's sakes, to get this thing started, how will we ever agree in the next phase of this project to select the actual piece of work? I don't think I can be any more direct than that.
Well, in my recollection, the alternate sites had problems, and I think the municipality voiced those potential problems. And I'm just sorry we didn't find a way to start looking at some other sites. I mean, I drove around Elora today and I found 2 or 3 sites that look pretty good, but
sorry, Brian, I think you were speaking, but I lost it. Everything froze up on me there for a minute.
I was just saying that it's too bad to lose a project based on the site. It strikes me that the project is more important than whether it's on a particular site, and there are probably good reasons why some people want it in certain places. We all voted to support south or north of the bridge originally. So all I can say is the project may or may not proceed, but if your group is not, I mean, we have discussed this at great length. If your group does not want to proceed, then essentially you're saying that's that. It doesn't preclude us from proceeding in some other way or with some other kind of monument, or memorial, sculpture, however we want to put it. But at this point, you're saying fairly firmly that your group is not going to do this, and it behooves us then to honor your wishes and pass the appropriate motion, and then if all of the CSAC members agree, look at alternatives. So I mean, that's my summary of where we're at. We're kind of at a bit of an impasse, but we certainly appreciate you expressing your opinion and being on top of this and treating it with a serious demeanor. I mean, we're not against you or your group. It's
right.
Anyway.
And I appreciate that. And I think you summarized things well, Brian. And I do want to reiterate that, our committee is totally dedicated to carrying on with our annual exhibition, and that's where we need to put our resources. And that, as I mentioned, over the period of time we've had a very good relationship with the township. So this was really an outlier where we ran into this roadblock. And, we're hopeful we're going to carry on as a contributing member of the community, our committee, and working with the township with the annual exhibition. So we're very disappointed, but also it's not like there's hard feelings here. We just don't feel we can move forward at this point. And we absolutely want to see the funds go back to some arts initiative in the village of Elora. The lawyers will have to work out how the money has to be redistributed, I suppose. But if there's another arts initiative, whether it's a sculpture or a mural or whatever, and if that can be a way to honor Mr. McDonald, then yes, absolutely, your committee needs to pursue some other options there. And if someone else comes forward and says, hey, we have a great idea to do something for representing Mr. McDonald's legacy, and we're happy to have it placed at the south side of the walking bridge, then of course you're going to pursue that. We understand that. We have no objection to some other group being awarded the funding, so to speak. We know that's something that if our agreement is terminated, will have to happen.
Okay, well, we will certainly be discussing our options from here on. And I just want to say again, thank you, David, for coming forth and talking about it. And we'll good luck with your other sculpture project, which is an important one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So shall I exit the meeting?
Brian, Jen had her hand up. I don't know if she had a question for David or not.
Sorry, Jen, I didn't know you were waving at me. Go ahead, Jen.
That's okay. It was just going to be just a comment for David. I feel like it's really unfortunate that this is the first time that we have the committee speaking, the sculpture committee speaking to this committee, and it's just really unfortunate that the communication has broken down like that. I think we were all, excited to see kind of what that would look like, to such a generous gift that this was. And you guys are a great organization and have a lot of value in Elora. And yeah, no, I hope that we can come up with a solution, like you said, that, you know, still able to kind of utilize that arts community in Elora to bring something fitting to the generous donation that it was. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's lots of artistic people in the village. I'm sure we can find someone to participate.
Okay. Thanks, David.
Okay, will I get kicked out, or do I have to exit on my own? I'll leave. Thank you, everyone. I
David.
appreciate your
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Okay, so where we go now?
That would be my report, Brian.
Yep. Okay, please, Dorothy.
Okay, so as you all know, I submitted that report prior to tonight's meeting for everyone to review. I took all the events that transpired right from the beginning and put it in chronological order for you. That leads us up to today. You know, we agreed to give the committee $25,000 to do a sculpture in honor of Mr. McDonald, and the agreement was formatted and provided to them through our legal advice. So we've had a lot of steps along the way, and unfortunately, COVID caused a lot of delays as well, unfortunately. But as you just heard from David himself, that they are advising us to terminate the agreement with them as they can no longer pursue this project. So I think that's the first thing we have to consider. And then, you know, we're here tonight to provide some options and on behalf of council. And then, you know, if anybody has, staff provided some options there to begin that discussion. We're open to any options right now. If you have other options you want to discuss, I think we need to table that. But I only created some of those options to move forward to begin the discussion of this. So that's where we are tonight. Yeah. So I did want to share with you, recently I just discovered this. And Lisa, I'm going to need you to share that screen before we start getting into our options. I just want to share this with you. With the bridge, the McDonald Bridge in town, there was a plaque that was attached to that bridge recognizing Mr. McDonald, a beautiful plaque. In addition to that, there was a storyboard created explaining who Mr. McDonald was. Lisa, if you could share that, that'd be great. The committee has not seen this. This particular storyboard will be installed at the bridge because it does make reference to the bridge. It's beautiful. It has his picture, it has his wife in his picture. That shot on the fire truck was taken in Elora. And so this is sitting idle right now. It is meant to go at the bridge. I believe it was going to be installed for when we did the grand opening of the bridge, but then COVID hit and everything came to a screeching halt. So this is going to be installed down by that bridge along with the plaque that's already there. So I just wanted the committee to be aware of this because this is I just found this out recently. Lisa, can you share the plaque that's on the bridge for the committee to see, please? So this just talks about the bridge, the history of the bridge, but it does reference the generous donation from Jack R. McDonald. The bridge was replaced in 2019 on the original historic stone piers. So that is currently on the bridge, and then the storyboard will be installed at some point somewhere near that as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention when we are considering other options if there are some. That's it. I think I've covered everything I needed to say. I just need to check my notes real quick. Yep, that's pretty it. I didn't want to get into all the detail of the report. You've read it. There are 5 pages of notes that explains the process on how everything transpired, and then the options at the end. And we can discuss whatever options anybody has, if you have some. But we need to, I think, first of all, agree as a committee and make a motion to terminate the current agreement with the committee, and then consider what our other options are.
Okay, do you want me to provide that motion now, and then we can discuss it from there?
Jennifer's got a question.
Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, yeah, it was just a comment. And yeah, I agree. I think a part of the motion would be terminating that agreement. And I'm looking at just the other options here about, exploring options presented at the Elora Fergus Arts Council, or requesting more time to review. After listening to everything and kind of following along the story, I'm just wondering, I do feel that, Elora has a great arts community. It was a generous donation. Could we simply not just put out a request for a proposal to the community in general for artists or artist organizations to submit their ideas on honoring or the tribute to Mr. McDonald?
So
could it be as simple as that, or yeah?
Well, I mean, I would
does
have
that
to
then
lean
start
on,
it? Yeah.
yeah, I'd have to lean
Go ahead,
on
Dorothy.
another arts committee. I mean, I certainly don't have that experience on how to go about this. I'll explain. There's two differences here. The Elora Sculpture Committee, when they put out, and forgive me if I use the wrong words, but when they put out a call for tender, that goes to all artists across Canada, completely across Canada. I didn't know that. That's another thing I learned. The Elora Arts Council, if they were to take a similar project and do a call for artists, it's only within Center Wellington. So you're drawing from a much smaller base. Yes, we have a wealth of artists here in our town. I don't know if they could come up with something. Grace, you're an artist. You might be able to answer that better than me. But that's the difference between the two committees. Okay, Elora Arts Council is local. The Elora Sculpture Project is Canadian-wide. Grace, can you add to that?
Well, I was just thinking of two possibilities, because I think that is an issue. To get a good quality sculpture, you do want a broad base of submissions, perhaps. On the other hand, McDonald really does honor Elora, and so maybe getting somebody local would be good anyway. But my two thoughts were, I mean, maybe the plaque on the bridge is, and that visual is enough to specifically honor him. Maybe he would be just as happy if the money were to go toward, say, for example, my two thoughts were, I think the town buys sculptures from time to time from the Elora Sculpture Committee. Am I correct in that? Like maybe the money could go towards purchasing some of the sculpture every couple of a year, just as part to be permanently here in town, because they do buy sculptures, don't they?
The township purchased 2 sculptures for Canada 150. One for
So maybe
Elora.
it could be something like that, like that money could go to the sculpture committee to use to purchase a couple more sculptures when they find ones that they really like and would like to keep in Elora. That's one suggestion. And the second thought is, I know that the Elora Center for the Arts is starting a sculpture garden, and they had put out a call for artists, two sculptures to be going into that art center sculpture garden. I know it because my daughter's submission was accepted. So maybe they, in their sculpture garden, would have the use for some money to use for more sculptures. Those were my two thoughts, because I think it is a challenging thing to put out. Like, there has to be people to review these submissions, and like, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal to choose the right sculpture. If it's specifically to honor him, whereas if it's just sculptures to be in town, there's already a process to get those that we could use. Just a
Well,
thought.
that's where this committee has to decide if it's going to be an option. Pat, go ahead.
It was actually, hi, I was actually going to direct my question to Carrie or Lisa. Would it be worth putting the motion option 1 without the recommendation as to what to do with the rest of the funding on the table, vote, have that either carried or not, especially while Kurt is still with us. And then we can continue this conversation and come to the conclusion we need more time, we have an idea, we want to defer the decision, whatever the case might be. But I feel like we have a consensus on that, and that's sort of been what we've just heard from David, and maybe that business needs to be addressed first, and then we can go with, and then, you know, option 2 could be a completely separate motion. I'm just checking if that's okay with Lisa and Carrie as from a protocol perspective.
Through the chair, yes, that's actually probably a really good idea. I think the request was made. I think you should deal with that request, remain focused on that, and then move forward on and open discussions about moving forward. I think you need to address the delegation's request.
Okay. May I read the motion? Are we ready?
Yeah,
So the motion,
sorry, Brian, I would just alter it. Maybe skip the second part, right?
the and that at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion is that the Community Services Advisory Committee recommend to council that the authority be delegated to the Managing Director of Corporate Services to invoke Article 3.4, failure to comply of the McDonald Grant Agreement between the Township and the Elora Sculpture Project Committee, which provides a process to terminate the agreement as requested by the Elora Sculpture Project Committee on March 22nd, 2021 in their written summary. Do we refer to the March 21, March 22, or to today's conversation, or doesn't it matter? I guess the written submission is the more important one. Thoughts?
I think you just need to get a mover and seconder before you can
Yeah.
discuss that, Brian. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Well, I was just, anyway, okay. Anyone care to move that motion? Jen, seconder? That'd be Neil Dunsmore. Okay. All in favor?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to offer opportunity for discussion. You have the motion on the table now. Is discussion
Okay.
over? Sorry,
Let's
Brian,
carry on
not
with
to
the
interrupt. I
discussion
just don't want, once you call for the vote, you can't go back in time.
Okay. Thoughts, comments?
I think it's a regrettable situation, but that's where we've come, and they want to terminate the agreement, and I think we should respect that. Terminate the agreement, and then we can have a discussion about how to move forward.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? All in favor of the motion? Sorry, I just got to pass through and make sure.
I think Kurt has to
Okay.
verbalize his vote
Go ahead.
since we can't see him.
Yeah, I'm in favor. Yes.
Okay. So I didn't see your hand, Kim. Sorry, I just was switching screens. Okay, so the motion is carried. Sorry, I don't know what that was. Anyway, so that motion is carried. Now, can we carry on with some conversation about options in a general way? So we've already heard a few good ideas. Neil?
Well, I just wanted, my 2 cents worth is that we're still coming out of a COVID situation. We don't know how things are going to progress. The original motion that came out of this committee was the North Piazza or the South Piazza. And right now we have no idea what the South is going to look like. It might be the best location ever. So I'm thinking there's no time frame on this. So what are we rushing for? I think the committee was in agreement that something should be done for Jack R. McDonald. And I don't see the reason why we should rush it. I'd like to see what the development on the south of the river comes through at. And if we could work with them in the Piazza, so it's close to the bridge and close to downtown where it can honor a man who really helped this community. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, anyone else? Any other thoughts?
I'm in agreement with that as well.
Okay, I'm just getting us back on. Okay, sorry, I have a number of screens running here and I'm just trying to, okay.
Pat has her hand up, Brian, just so you know.
Okay, sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, thank you very much. So just for clarity then, what I think Neil is suggesting is option 3. Request more time to review and discuss options once the McDonald grant agreement and the sculpture agreement is terminated. So no decision yet, just put a pin in it. Because I think Grace had alternative ideas, which would not necessarily, or great ideas, did not necessarily link to Jack R. McDonald. So I just want to make sure, is that what you're recommending at this point, Neil, or am I missing what you're suggesting?
No, it's option 3. Let's stick a pin in it until we see what the entire landscape is like, and then we can revisit the issue. But there's no rush to spend the money. It's sitting in trust. We can hold it in trust until we decide what's best to do with it.
Okay. Now, option 3 also carries a motion with it. We don't have to pass another motion about that, do we? The initial motion stands, or do we carry on with the option 3 motion?
I think you need a motion to have consensus that is the next step for this committee, because there's many things you could be doing. You need to put that down in a motion and vote. But be sure you've heard from everybody that's what Neil has suggested. I'm sure there's other people with thoughts.
Yep, Kim?
Well, with the options, I was noticing the Elora Fergus Arts Council make a recommendation, but would there be any way that we could approach like the Elora Center for the Arts? Because they're receiving a substantial amount of the money to do their addition and to do all of the things that they want to do there. Would they be interested in creating a monument type or getting a statue or something that would go at their new addition or at their buildings to be like, this money came from him and this is who he is? And would they show any interest in that at all? Or have they shown any interest?
So can I speak, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead, Dorothy.
And don't forget, we also have the Elora Fergus Arts Council that has expressed an interest as well. So I think I like Neil's idea. I mean, we're probably a fair bit away from that, getting any information on the south side of the bridge. Perhaps somehow we can even get them as a delegation or I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud right now, and have them present any ideas that they could put forward. Is that an option? Like, would we want to consider something like that? Because I think there are a couple organizations out there that probably would express an interest in this project. We know we don't have the sculpture committee, right? So if we do get granted the access on the south side of the bridge, we still have to figure out how we're going to do it and what it's going to look like. So that's just my thought.
Well, if
Pat,
we do,
you had,
sorry. I was just gonna
Go
say,
ahead,
if we do what Neil's recommending with the option 3 to request more time to review and discuss while we're putting a pin in it, could we maybe explore the options that Elora Fergus generates? And if anybody else wants to come up with some ideas or proposals, we could look at that as well, just to look at everything so that we have all of our options looked at.
Pat, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I don't think you have to make a nail down your decision tonight. If your decision is to defer to a future meeting, you can make that decision. Everybody can go back, think about it, consider options. We can continue to put it on the agenda and have it as a discussion point going forward. I'm just concerned that we're going to rush into a decision or direction without hearing from everybody. If we wanted to hear from everybody, then we really need to issue a request for proposals and hear from everybody, whether that's an individual artist, Elora Center for the Arts. We still run into where is it going to go? What's the best location? Elora Center for the Arts is not on township property. Who owns the statue? Who insures it? You know, I'm sorry, I'm always in the technical side of agreements, and I don't want to be. I want us to take our time. But if people have a specific direction they want to go to, then let's do that. Like, but I also want to just say, defer and consider, and maybe ask for everyone's. I think that's, Grace, was your idea, was to have people bring a proposal forward, whether it's for Jack R. McDonald or just for art in spaces. Is that sort of what you were suggesting? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I was thinking it perhaps didn't have to be anything specifically honoring him. It could be more sculptures around town, for example, that would be on town proper. I don't know how it all works with that. I would have never thought of what you're saying with something going on the Elora Center for the Arts. I wouldn't have thought, oh, well, is there, who owns it, or is there insurance? Like, I don't think of those things. So, but I can see why you have to. So yeah, my thought was that we might not have to narrow ourselves to one specific sculpture honoring him, but to have some more sculptures in town. That was my thought, just sort of brainstorming ideas. But we could ask the Elora Center for the Arts and the Arts Council if they have any ideas, I suppose. But I think we probably need to think about it a bit ourselves first. Because, I mean, when somebody mentioned individual artists, I think you're going down a bit of a tricky slope there. If you're asking individual artists, you're going to have somebody oversee it and select. It's tricky doing just an open call for us to do that. That'd be too hard.
That's what I was trying to get at, Grace.
Yeah, we need to have an organization overseeing it.
Yeah.
Essentially,
yes, totally.
I'll just speak and then I'll go to you, Jen. Essentially, we need something like a jury, not unlike what Insights does annually. In other words, a body of people would look at the submissions, but we also need an administration of the process. So that sort of summarizes the process. Anyway, Jen, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, in order to kind of get that feedback, if we look at option 3, like, would it make sense to revise that as, you know, the committee requests more time to review, discuss options once the agreement is terminated, and invite delegations from Center Wellington's arts organizations to present their ideas at a future meeting or something like that? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the exact wording, but yeah.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah,
Dorothy?
and I think just to clean it up tonight, like, you know, that we explore what other options are available as a committee, and then once we determine who and what is interested, then we can set up as a delegation moving forward. I like that.
Okay. Am I missing anyone? Any other comments? Because we can put a motion forward. Basically, it's the motion for option 3, and I can read it. That the Community Services Advisory Committee support the committee's request for additional time to review and discuss options once the McDonald grant agreement with the Elora Sculpture Project Committee has been terminated. And do we want to talk about a specific call to delegations or an outreach to arts groups for ideas for us to consider as an addition to that motion? Pat?
Yeah, you actually just said what I was going to say, and include an and that CSAC actively pursue interested groups, arts groups, or however you want to word it, to submit ideas for consideration. And how we do that can be decided going forward. But we're looking for a reach out to our arts community to reach back and tell us what their ideas are. And I think that's what we want to hear. And then, you know, this group can then have that opportunity to consider. And we're not putting any time frame on that. We're just asking for some more time to do that. So just a second piece and that. Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to read the motion again, Carrie?
No, Carrie's got her hand up, and then whenever she
Yep.
speaks, we have to listen.
We're listening.
I'm just a little worried here, because we work at the pleasure of council. So council supported the committee's initial recommendation for the allocation of the 25,000. So council will have to approve anything other than that. They will terminate the agreement, and then they will likely look to the committee to come up with options. So what may I suggest that we change it to perhaps direct staff to explore options. Let me see here. What did I write? And direct staff to explore options for a potentially new competition or art competition or a new process to follow for the allocation of the 25,000. That way, council will be endorsing the process that you're going to undertake, rather than just us forging forward. I think we need to make sure that when council terminates the agreement, they also support the committee moving forward with a new project or a new competition or options that staff will lay out for you is my suggestion.
Okay. Any thoughts or concerns? Anyone else? Can we consider that motion as read, or would you like to read the whole thing out to us, Carrie?
Well, I'd certainly like to pretty it up a little bit, but I think if you understand the gist of where I was going, and that that the Community Services Advisory Committee, and I would take this part out about supporting the committee's request. I would just say, take additional time to review and discuss options once the McDonald grant agreement with the Elora Sculpture Project Committee has been terminated, and further, the council directs staff to review options for a new for an alternative allocation of the $25,000, something along that line, and then staff will bring forward options back to the committee.
Okay. Any discussion? Any further discussion, I guess I should say, about the motion? I'm seeing no hands. So I guess we need someone to move it. Someone care to move the motion, please? Grace, and second it? Kim? So, all in favor? Okay. Jen, I didn't see your hand or lack of hand. Okay, great. So we can consider that motion passed. So hopefully this means that a project is going to continue to exist, and we'll move forward and do something good. I just wanted, on behalf of the committee as chairman, to thank Dorothy for the good work she's done at sort of ironing out all the steps and the trail that we followed on this, and it's been very useful to have that so that we could review, because the whens and the wherefores were important to recall. So thanks, Dorothy. Okay, I'll go back to my agenda. Sorry, the next item, we're back to Dorothy again. You're having a busy night, Dorothy. This is the changes to the community improvement grants. And we've discussed this a little bit before, but I guess this is the final report, is it?
Yeah, so thanks, Brian. So I sent you folks the report, the policy, and it was rather marked up with a lot of changes, and I apologize for that, but it important that you saw the changes that we were making. So how I arrived at some of these changes were, as you know, we've discussed this policy in the past. Some of the changes were input from you folks. Some of the changes I implemented based on, I was reviewing different policies that other municipalities had written. So I'm happy to take you through the changes. I know Lisa has that document. I pulled out all the changes in a separate file, and I can share them on our screen with you if you want to go through and discuss each one. I'm happy to do that. There are quite a few. You tell me what you'd like to do, but I think we can do it fairly quickly if Lisa shares the screen. And if anybody has questions as I kind of explain the changes to you, just jump in and let me know. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. Perfect. So the first change was funding. We had to add in, so you can see it in red. So it wasn't, the organization must be comprised of an independent volunteer committee and or belong to an educational organization, because we were finding we were getting those applications in. So we had to change that. 1.19, that the organization is in good standing with the township, and the organization must be current on accounts receivable and not in litigation with the township. And then the next one was a new one we added, marketing for a new event or a project in its first year, because we were finding a lot of new projects coming forward and they were applying for money for marketing, and that actually falls under ineligible. So what we wanted to do was explain in the policy that for a brand new event, because we really want to encourage new events and new programming and whatnot, and they need funding to get it off the ground. So we agreed as a committee, let's add that to the qualifications, but it's only for a new event in its first year. So that's what that one is about. And then as we scroll down to ineligible for funding, 1.2.3, marketing for the organization applying. I was trying to dig that comment, and I believe we were having, so we were having other subcommittees applying for marketing or whatnot. It has to be the organization that applies for the funding will not be eligible for marketing for their event. It can't be a subcommittee or whatever. It's the organization that is applying is not eligible for marketing. Like I said in the last statement, it's only for a first year event in its new event. One project that we've beaten this one around for a long time, and it's finally in this document, is 1.2.11, capital projects are not eligible for this funding. 1.2.12, we had to put in something about applications that are arrived late, because that was never in there. And so basically after the posted deadline date, if it comes in late, we don't even talk about it. It gets deferred to council. We wanted to make that very clear. The specific annual grants. So I removed the township funding allocation, the 25,000, because it can fluctuate. So we can add that as an addendum, but we wanted to remove it from the policy so it wasn't set in stone, because it does fluctuate. And then I wanted to add the applying, and this is taken right from our finance manager of finance, because this is how you have to apply for the annual specific grants. The applying organization must demonstrate the social need for their program. Oh, I'm cut off. Hang on. Sorry, my screen is cutting off part of it. So they have to demonstrate the need for program and must have a history of the program by applying through the impact grant application process for a minimum of 5 years. And let me give you an example of that. Big Brothers Big Sisters for many years applied for the same funding for the same programming It's very much a social need in the community. We finally took their application and transferred it over to the specific annual grants because they've proven this is an ongoing program that they're going to continue to apply for. Now they've moved over to this new category. So it's very much based on a social need, and they have to show a history of it. So I wanted that in that document because it was not in there before. I removed the table that shows all the people that apply for this category because we felt it was better it be attached as an addendum to the policy because it too fluctuates. So I took it out, and it's now going to become an appendix to the policy.
Can I make a point here, Dorothy?
Under the grant. Certainly.
Sorry, I
need a
just
drink, so
caught
this is
this.
good timing.
I meant to catch that. I should have caught this before. But under your added point here, the applying organization must demonstrate the social need of their program and must have a history of the program by applying through the community. I think by having a successful application through the community impact
yep.
grant. Rather
Good
than
point.
just, they can apply all they want, but they have to actually have a successful application. It's a small point, but I think it's worth just making that little change. Thank you.
Nope, that's perfect. Thank you, Pat. I'll make sure that happens. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I removed the table, and then under the grant application process in the fall of each year, it always used to be the finance department. We just put it, the township will advertise in local paper and on social media, which we do, all the relevant information. The advertisement will indicate where applications are available and when they are due. And then 4.2, this is new because with COVID last year, I changed the process to go electronic, if you recall. Every year prior to that, we've always had to have everybody submit 7 hard copies and in a binder and distribute the binder. Last year was the first year I changed it to go electronic because of COVID, and I think it worked very well. So I'm hoping the committee agrees to that and will let me continue to do it that way. So what I said is applications must be delivered via email in PDF form to the Community Services Department by the date and time outlined in the advertisement discussed in section 4.1. So I would really like to continue to do it electronically if the committee agrees. I don't think it was too painful for you folks. I hope not. I'm just assuming it wasn't. It sure eliminates a lot of paper and saves a few trees, that's for sure. So I would like to recommend that. And then 4.9, the granting of financial assistance. Oh, this is a new one I discovered from every application or every policy I looked at from other municipalities. This was an ongoing theme. So I felt it was important to get it in our document. The granting of financial assistance in any year is not to be regarded as a commitment by the municipality to continue such assistance in future years. In addition, the municipality will not provide guaranteed funding beyond the current year. In approving grants, the municipality may impose conditions as it sees fit. That was a very common statement in every policy I read, and I think it's a good one to put in there. 4.10, in the event of a surplus after the funding allocations have been determined, a recommendation will be made to council for a decision on what to do with the balance. That is the only one I'm questioning right now. I'm not sure, and maybe Pat can answer this or Carrie. Can our committee make that recommendation if there's surplus? Or, because in the past, any surplus went to an emergency fund, which I don't believe happens anymore. So I need guidance on this change. Can we do it that way and word it that way, or does the ultimate decision with the surplus up to council?
Pat?
I think you covered off here by saying that the committee, in the event there's a surplus, a recommendation will be made to council for an option or for a decision on what to do with the balance. So CSAC is not making that decision. They're making a recommendation. So ultimately, council can do whatever they want with the funding, but I'd like Neil to comment on that if he sees any problem with it.
No, I don't see a problem with that. Actually, I think it's worded quite nicely because it does put the ball back in council's court. And they can say, great, we accept your recommendations, we'll allow you to use that money or reassign that money for that. Or they can say, you know what, too much financial hardship, we're going to take that money back, put it to something else. That's always our right, and it clearly states that. So I'm happy with that.
Perfect. Thank you. Can I get you to scroll? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Lisa. So 5.0, conditions of funding. Been all printed materials, and I added including marketing materials. Grant recipients must provide a written statement of the use. And then I added at the end, organizations will not be considered for future grant funding until all the required reports are received by the Township of Center Wellington's Community Services Department. Along with the required report, any photographs that can be shared of the event, project, or program would be welcomed by the township. I think that would be awesome to have, especially with a new event or whatever, that they could supply us with photographs. And I'd love to create a file on with all of these applications and what they were able to accomplish by the grant. So I really thought that was important to add. And then the rest of the information is basically what I extracted from the policy itself and will attach as an appendix, so that when those amounts change, it's not going to change the policy. We keep the policy to the policy, and then all the funding will be attached as an appendix. And that's all I have. So I know you folks had a chance to review it. Did anybody have any changes or additions or questions with this? Because I really to get this moving forward. Brian, Jennifer
Jen?
got her hand up.
Yep, Jen, go ahead.
Lisa, sorry, can you just share your screen again? There was just one section and it doesn't change the intent at all, or do we screen? Okay. I think it was go up just one page. I think it's on the bottom of page 1. Yeah, here, I just like in terms of like the wording, like we refer to it as like the township and then the municipality. Like, I don't know if you just want to keep it consistent there, like using,
Oh, as in one or the other?
Yeah, like 4.9, either following like the township or.
You can tell I took that from another policy.
Yeah, just I think if you change the municipality back to the township, and I think there was maybe councils that could be capitalized, but that was just minor things. The only question I actually had was, had we discussed, and maybe I'm like mixing up the different grants here, putting in some kind of wording about how long they have to use the money?
Well, they have to issue a report to us 2 months after they've done it.
Okay. Yes.
Right? So that is very much part of the policy.
Okay. That would take care of that. That's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
It looks great though. Good work.
Yeah, I'd like to get this, if the committee approves the report as it is, then I will take this policy to council for approval. And then we're going to be jumping right into grant season in the fall, like September. So if we agree that the report is good the way it is, then I will take the report to council in August, and it will be ready to roll out in September, which the timing is perfect. So.
Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Dorothy. There's a lot of work has gone into this, and you've done a really good job putting it together.
COVID helped.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions that got solved when you put your working copy up. So I think I've discovered the problem, and that is section 3 was request for subsidized township parks recreation facility rental. And then grant application process should be section 4. But it's listed on this working copy as section 3, so all our numbers are off going down.
I talked to Lisa about that at the beginning, and I forgot to bring that up.
It's not a big deal. I know you would have caught it. But
they're all out of whack, and when I printed it off today, they were lined up perfectly, but they didn't match the report that you got with the agenda.
Okay.
The numbers are all in order. I actually had a staff person proof it for me today, so it's good.
Okay, so the only other question I have, and I probably asked it before and forgotten the answer because I'm getting old. The specific annual grants that are done year after year after year, how does an organization there go about increasing the amount of funds that they get?
So what happens typically is these organizations, like they continue to apply each year. If they have to provide it in writing, what they're doing with the money, and if there's an increase to it. And then if there's an increase to it, we look at the overall number, and so that's why I say that number can fluctuate.
Okay.
In the last 5 years, I can probably only think of one organization that had to increase their funding slightly, and that's been it. And as you know, we're going to see a change again this fall, because a lot of the organizations last year, if you recall, rolled their money over to
Yep.
this year, and now they're probably, most of them are going to roll over to next year as well. So I'm in the process right now of finding out how many that is going to affect. So that funding is really going to fluctuate because of the rollovers, because of COVID. But yeah, that's how they request it, Neil.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Now, do we need a motion for this, Carrie?
Yes, you do. I
Okay.
think it's provided at the bottom, Brian, of your
Oh,
list.
of course, yeah.
I thought I did it. I'm like,
Yeah, you did.
Carrie helped.
If someone else is open to that. No, I've got it. I just have to go into my. Okay, just bear with me. Okay. So the motion that I was given to, that applies to this, is that the Community Services Advisory Committee recommends to Council that the amended community grant application policy be adopted as presented. So discussion on that? Well, we should have a mover and a seconder. Neil moves it and Jen seconds. Okay. Discussion. I guess I'm not seeing any hands or anything, so I'm assuming we can put it to the vote. All in favor? Okay. Consider it carried.
Thank you. And I will send you out a new document that's not marked up so badly, and you'll have a fresh one to start with when we start putting applications together in the fall. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Now, we're moving along to section 7, information items. The first one is the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee update. We were to have a meeting this week. We didn't have it. And I can say that this is an enthusiastic committee that is looking at all the different kinds of options. And there are 2 subcommittees that are working. I'm on the financial incentive subcommittee, which is exploring a number of initiatives, largely from other communities, which have been maybe doing this a little bit longer. But it is an enthusiastic and active set of 2 subcommittees. The other one is a policy subcommittee. So I'm not sure what our deadline is or when we're going to be done, but I would think we're getting very close to making recommendations. So that's where it stands as of today. Any questions or from me to me? Okay, well, you can see that. We can move on to the next item, which is, Kurt isn't here, so the Indoor Turf Facility Subcommittee update. I think I'm on that committee and I have nothing to offer. If anyone has anything, please feel free. But anyway, I'm assuming we'll just move on from that. Neil, you could give us a council update, please.
Sure, it's been an active month. We're pleased to announce that we have a procedural bylaw passed. So that will affect how meetings are run. It doesn't affect this committee too much, I don't think. If there's anything that does come up, I'm sure Carrie or Lisa will explain it to the committee and how we follow rules now. But it did tighten some things up around council meetings, so there's many of us that are thrilled with that. Council also approved, because this committee talks about active transportation a lot, the St. David Street rebuild. What we approved was that township staff would apply for a grant from the province based on putting bike lanes up St. David Street. It does call for a fair number of parking spots to be removed. There will be some that are left there. And the whole concept there is to rebuild that road so that we will never get trucks off of it, but we can make it visually compacted so that it forces truck drivers to slow down. So that's kind of the thing that we're after. And so that'll be a good thing. We'll see if we get the grant money and how it progresses as it goes through. The other thing is we finally got the alternative truck route. And I use that term alternative truck route because a lot of people are calling it a bypass. It's not a bypass, it's an alternative truck route. If it was a bypass, we'd have it go completely around town and no exits off it or anything. These are existing roads and they're signed as an alternative route for trucks to take. And the county's also looking at other options on both sides of the township, east and west, to help with that. So we're hoping that alleviates some of the traffic patterns that are going through town. And then we approved that staff start looking for a site for an operations center to combine some of the operations of the township in one central location. I don't think I've missed anything, but Carrie, if I have, give me a shout out. I think we covered most of the high points, right?
Yeah, I think you did. You got it.
All right.
Thanks, Neil. Moving along to staff updates, Parks and Facilities update is the first one on offer.
Sure, I'll take that one. Yeah, so Friday, we are entering stage 3 and staff now are they're working on preparing for our indoor facilities, both for programming and I'm also looking up for some, right now, just some junior B lacrosse practices. So hoping to start both the programming and the lacrosse rentals next week. I know lacrosse is pretty eager to get out there, but there are some openings that we have to, or procedures we have to put in place just to make sure that is good to go. But I'm sure that we can make that happen. Also, the pool is preparing to open on July 26th. Pool staff are currently updating their certifications and their trading in order to prepare for the opening. So it's good to see. We've got some activity in the pool the past few days, so it's great to see. And just to make you aware, the day camp has been running now for 2 weeks, and everything seems to be going well. So that's good news there. Again, it's so nice to see activity back in our facilities. It's great to see. I know we have lots of activity with the vaccine clinic with different people, but it's for some reason people don't have as much fun getting a needle. Just with that, the vaccine clinic, we're going to be working with public health. They're looking basically to start shrinking their clinic on moving away from Pad B, probably the end of August, first part of September. Looks like we'll be moving their clinic into our hall and probably a couple other parts of our facility. So the good news is we'll be getting Pad B back, and I'm hoping we'll have ice ready for Pad B mid-September. That being said, we're currently working with some of our ice user groups and planning for this upcoming winter season. I know some groups are still waiting to hear from their provincial associations just to sort of see what their return to play is going to look like. Once we receive that, we're going to work with the groups to get things up and running. But just to give you an idea, and I hate to say this on July 14th, but by August 23rd, we're going to have one ice pad running. It'll be the Elora Community Center. So we'll be turning that plant on in probably about a month's time. So where'd summer go? So just with that too, the Pad A We're looking at it up and running by September 7th, just after Labor Day weekend. And just one other thing, just wanted to share the Nora Carla splash pad is up and running. If you've been by, you've probably noticed that the washroom isn't quite open yet. We did order a porta potty in its place. We're just waiting for a mechanism for the locking for the door. So once that part comes in, we'll get that washroom up and running. So that's my update for this evening. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Neil? Go ahead.
Yeah, and Matt, I just wanted to let you know, to say to all the staff that are in your facilities that they're doing a great job, especially juggling the clinics and trying to get people back to playing pickleball and tennis and get your pool open. And you can almost feel the people in town are starting to, stretch their wings again and get out of their house. And they can't do that if you guys aren't on the ball. And so thank everybody for us, because you're doing a great job juggling it all.
Great, thanks.
You're here.
I'll pass that on.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Cultural and special events update from Dorothy.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, so I'm going to wing it right now. I'm happy to say that our theater coordinator is back in the building. He's been on leave for the last year, so he's working hard at getting that building back up into shape and trying to get some rentals back in there. We have a couple rentals in September. We're not sure, based on the numbers that are allowed at stage 3, if we can go through with them or not, but there's interest out there, and people are eager to get back into the building and live performances again. We're also in the process of opening up the senior center for programming. We continue to run all our Zoom programming at the center. They continue to be very popular. And so in September, we're going to open it back up to in-person programming. But in the meantime, we're doing a survey to all our members, because, this is our very vulnerable sector, and we want to make sure that they're eager to get back and especially volunteer with us, because we can't run a lot of the programming without those volunteers in place. So we're working on connecting with them now and see how they feel about everything. I'm happy to announce that we have our first event coming to Fergus in August. On August the 22nd, we have a triathlon taking place, a kids triathlon. It's scaled back quite a bit from what they're used to doing there. They've been with us for about 5 years. They're an amazing group to work with. So we're pretty happy about they're going to do a smaller scale triathlon for the kids. And I'm sure the kids are going to be happy to participate in that. So we're really, really happy about, we got an event coming back into to the town. And we're just continuing to work with our BIAs to help them out along the way. And, our downtowns are looking great. And yeah, so I think that's about it. That's off the top of my head. I have moved back to the tourism office this week, and it feels absolutely wonderful. So I'm happy to be there, and it feels like life is normal right at the moment. So it's all good. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll probably think of something else around 2:00 tomorrow morning. So I'll share that with you tomorrow.
Thanks again, Dorothy. You've had a busy evening. Much appreciated. Pat, you're up next.
Yeah, I have to say that Matt and Dorothy covered a lot of what I was going to cover. So thanks, guys. You made my job very, very easy tonight. With the minutes today, I am going to share a link, which is the detailed legislation with respect to step 3. It's a significant, important step because it really lays out the rules as to how we can move forward. It won't be our last step. After you read it, you realize, oh, there's still restrictions on that, and we still have to do this and things like that. But we are looking at it and saying, things are really coming back to normal, and it's very exciting to read that. The challenge is that, every business or facility that opens has to prepare a safety plan. We call it our strategy to opening. And then we have to make that available to the public. And so this requires us to confirm any details prior to reopening. It's much faster for us to close a pool than it is to open a pool, for example. So everything from our screening protocols to our cleaning to staffing levels to how do we register people in and things like that. And we do have our previous strategies, which we are now pulling and dusting off and comparing that to the legislation so that we can get ready to open. It's always a challenge when the province makes a change. So they announced that we would go to step 3 this Friday, July 16th, and very challenging for us to pivot as we were prepared to open the aquatic center, for example, on July 26th. That is not an easy center to move earlier a week. So the aquatic center and the customer service counter at the Sportsplex will open on Monday, July 26th. We have swimming lessons running October 23rd to September 2nd. If anybody's got anyone wanting to participate in swimming lessons. And we have spent the past few weeks offering leader training, such as bronze or bronze cross for new lifeguards and instructors. There's a training gap across the province for new lifeguards. If you think about lifeguarding, it's a very high turnover position. People reach a certain age, they get their training. And then by the time they're in university or college or working, they finish their career as a lifeguard. So it's somewhere between 3 and 5 years long. So we've had that attrition, but no new life coming to our program. So we're going to feel that pinch this fall. So we ran a bunch of courses, but we might be short staffed and we are actively recruiting lifeguards. But it will impact our programs that we can offer this fall. But we're going to work to make sure that the pool is a safe place to go for everybody. And that requires good staff that are well-trained. And that's not just us, that is across the province. We're not the only ones in this situation. So as the staff have mentioned, there's various dates with when we're opening things. We also have our indoor fitness classes. We were able to pivot that and get those started on Monday, July 19th, and they will start at the Elora Community Center. So we were going to do those on the 26th and we've backed that up a week. So we're excited to have active people in our facilities again. So as we continue to reopen, we will reimagine recreation in Center Wellington. Everybody's excited. And then the last thing I wanted to share with actually was Matt's news that he did get approval for the $20,000 from council to repair the rubber at State Park. So if you're an active user of State Park, you will see those repairs getting done. And that's good news for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Does anybody have anything they want to throw into the conversation before we say goodbye until September the 1st? I think
I was just
we
going to
probably
add,
all said a lot.
I was just going to say, I'm sending out the legislation, but don't worry, there's no test next month, whether you actually can answer all those questions. But thanks everybody for being patient with us during COVID. Let's hope we'll be meeting in person very soon.
Yes, that was my question. Is there a possibility we might be doing it September 1st?
I don't think September 1st, but we're not far off, Brian. I think we're bringing staff back, gradually reopening, but September 1st might be a little early, but maybe October. So we'll have to wait and see if we can find a facility that can accommodate all of us and socially distance. But we can't move faster than council. I think council will start to go live first and then you'll see the committees. I'm not sure if that's a fair statement, Carrie, but that's probably the order it's going to happen, right?
Most
Right.
likely.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the summer, everyone. I gather our next meeting is September 1st, and we'll look forward to that. But in the meantime, stay safe and have a great time, and we'll start some new initiatives in the fall.
Have a good summer, guys. Get out and enjoy a drink.
Yeah. Cheers, all.